Roxie.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Come, sit down.
Thanks.
Roxie. So, thank you for joining us today, Roxie. I mean, we are a fan of yours. You know, you're in such a privileged position, being like the poster girl of the professional Filipina in a multinational, environment, in a multinational position. I know it's a complicated question, but maybe you can share with us how you got there.
Actually, this is my 13th year in Dubai, so I've survived a decade already.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
Just like that, huh?
Yes, it's how time flies, right? I'm a mother of a 10-year-old kid, and I've seen Dubai evolved and the Filipino community transformed as well. And what is my story? I think I'm an ad woman through and through. So I graduated in University of Santo Tomas. My major was communication arts. I graduated on top of my class as cum laude, and my mentor was Bong Osorio. So how could I get out of the industry, right? So yeah, so from the Philippines, I was with McCann, I was with Starcom, and then I moved here. So basically, my sister was based in Abu Dhabi, and she told me that, hey, there's this place in Dubai called Dubai Media City, and I know how much you love advertising, why don't you give it a try? So I came here in June 2007.
Wow, that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a blur right now.
Exactly.
I think I just wanted to make it a point also that you're also a woman, which is not, it's not typical in the ad world, because here you have a lot of successful Filipino males in advertising, but there are very few women, and also on the strategic side, which I find so refreshing and so interesting.
Very true. I guess because in the Philippines, women are being complimented by being confident, right? So when I got here, and because my training was in McCann and in Starcom, wherein I was handling Procter & Gamble, I used to handle Nestle. So I guess being confident and just knowing your craft, doesn't make you an inferior individual, right? So when I got here, I started as senior executive. I was handling Etisalat in Abu Dhabi, and then I felt like I needed more energy. I needed to be more, being out there. So I moved to Dubai, and then I handled Kellogg's when it got first.
Very good brands, huh?
Yes, because I was specializing in FMCG that time. So my media agency won Kellogg's in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and they were looking for someone who's a TV expert. So apparently I fit the bill, so I got the job as a senior executive. And through the years, I was fortunate enough to be mentored by actually male bosses. Actually, I had a Lebanese boss. I had a Dutch CEO. Now I have a very powerful COO in our company. And through the years, they supported me in so many ways. So yeah, it's true that there is a little representation of women in the corporate world, particularly in advertising. So sometimes I see myself being the only woman in the room.
Yes.
And we're talking about, it's a senior leadership meeting.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially when I'm an ad woman and I'm talking to marketing people.
Sure,
where there's more men.
Yeah.
And what I'm handling now is automotive. So even more
muscle.
There's less women there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I totally sympathize with you because I come from a marketing background, and back then the situation was the same. So I would always be the only woman in the room, in a marketing board meeting, and everybody would be male. But how was it for you transferring from a very nice situation in Manila coming to here in the UAE? Because I know from a lot of friends, especially from an ad background, you know, you guys are existing in one of the, how would I say it, most attractive sectors in the Philippines.
Yeah.
You guys are glorified back home. You know, you have all the perks and everything. You have the big agencies. How was it for you coming here? Was there any culture shock? Was there any challenge? I mean, how was that for you moving out here in Dubai, in the UAE?
Yeah, I think at that time I'm lucky enough. I was fortunate enough not to have those horror stories. I guess I've been.
You hear a lot of those, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been blessed that I've met just wonderful people along the way that supported women, and they felt there's gender parity. You know, they don't see you as a woman talking to them. They see you as your value, or what is your role in the company, and what's your input at the end of the day. So even if, let's say, up until now, especially in the industry where I'm very busy on. I don't find myself like I'm a woman sitting in a table. I am a director, and you know, I'm gonna give my value to this meeting. So I felt that, you know, it's not about gender anymore. It's about how you assert yourself. It's about your value, and honestly, what's your, you know, significant contribution in the company. So in our company, we had a CEO, a woman CEO, and we're all very proud of her, you know. And now she's our COO for the whole group, and she's just very inspiring. And I've always been a fan of, you know, wonderful women like who's very successful, because we can learn a lot from them. You know, just like you know, back in the days, she's already Lalaine Benitez.
Thank you.
And I was just starting, you know.
No, actually, just to make a point there, because I've met Elda a long time before we started, Elda Puri, your CEO, before we started Illustrado, and I used to be her client, and she was the client servicing at that time. And from what I remember, she's very soft-spoken, very mild-mannered. What a beautiful, you know, lovely lady she is. And you don't, you know, you don't see that she's, you know, because when they say women in leadership, you typically have that stereotypical image in your head that they're hard-edged and they're very tough and all that. So, you know, to see somebody who's lovely and soft-spoken, you know, in that leadership position says a lot about what women can do, I think.
Yeah, and she's just incredible the way she you know, manages everybody.
Definitely.
She values gender parity, gender neutrality. It's not just about women empowerment, right? It's about treating everybody as equal.
I can imagine.
And every time, let's say, I meet like a women director or women MD, I just have so much admiration, because, you know, being a mother and being a working mom, and, you know, there's a certain, we have to work harder. That's the reality, right? So
you have to be smart.
Right.
You have to be hardworking. You have to look like this and do it all in high heels. You know, I keep saying that.
Exactly.
We have a multifaceted, you know, challenge there that we have to overcome. Now, we've talked about gender. I know that, you know, it's a little bit of a sensitive topic in a place like this, because we, you know, this is a cosmopolitan place that we live in. But there's always that, you know, that aspect of racial, that racial aspect in the mix. And I think there's no way of avoiding that. It's always there, basically, because people are people. You know, we're all from different cultures. We all have different practices. Did you ever have, you know, any experience that would be of that kind of a situation? Was there ever any kind of discrimination? I mean, probably not in your workplace, but in general. Did you experience anything
you're
like
right.
that?
You can never avoid it when you're in a foreign country. And I guess how you react to it is what matters, right? Sometimes you just have to learn to let it go. It depends on the circumstances, right? Or sometimes you just have to make a statement. So I remember it happened a few years back. And it was a meeting. It was a corporate meeting. There's a lot of people involved, and they were pitching for a script. And the theme is more. It's like a satire. It's like a little bit comedy. So it's like they're, you know, putting some humor around some subject. So they were reading the script, and it just so happened it was talking about two Filipino guys, and there was a bit of a mockery. So my team were all non-Filipinos. They were looking at me, and they were like waiting for me to react. There's like a little bit fear in their eyes. So I remained composed, and then I let them finish, because it's a professional meeting, right? So then after that, I just asked one question. I said, why does it have to be two Filipino men, right? I mean, I don't think the script called for, you know, a specific nationality. So that's what I asked. And then the guy who was the director in that company, who's non-Filipino, asked me and said, "Why, are you offended?" You know what? I said, "Yes, I'm offended." Yes. What are you going to do about it?
Good on you.
And then
wow.
I realized there's 20
I had
of
goosebumps
us.
just then, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess at that time I was like, I could just say, no, I'm not offended. You know, it's fine. But you know what?
Good on you.
I'm in a position of leadership. I have a say. I ask a question, and I want them not to continue that, right? And if there's a specific rationale around it, maybe I could accept it. But I wanted to be open. I didn't attack them and say, why does it have to be Filipino? You know, I just asked a simple question. And he said, I guess from then on, my learning there is that you have to say it. You don't need to sugarcoat it. Don't lie about it. So I just said, yes, I'm offended. So what are you going to do about it?
I love that. I think the more we talk about this, that we have to be vocal about how it is and call it as it is without having to offend people.
Right.
I mean, we are able to impart these things, and we can teach them lessons also, you know, so they know how to treat us. But if we don't talk, then how do they understand, right?
Right. And sometimes, you know, it's cultural differences. Maybe for them it's not offensive, but if you are offended and you feel like there's something you can do about the situation, then do it, but do it in a professional, contextual way, right? So I did not storm the room, I did not throw a tantrum, I did not make a drama out of about it. So I just said it, and then that script didn't see the light of day. They did not produce it. I didn't even write an email.
Bravo.
You know, that's it, right? If we can solve it in a non-dramatic way, let's do it.
I love that.
Right?
And, you know, kudos to you for that. We need more people like you who will voice their opinion and make sure that we are not painted in a stereotypical light. We need more people.
But I guess, Lalaine, you know, there's something in our culture as well. And I think I've been here 13 years, right? I've seen how it transformed. I think we should, Filipinos, we also need to do our part. If we are being too oversensitive about everything, that is actually blocking our growth.
True.
Right?
True.
So it's not about, is it because I'm Filipino, that's why he is treating me that way? And sometimes you have to assess yourself. Maybe I failed, that's why I got critiqued, right?
True.
What is it that, it's not about the race all the time, and I felt like this is becoming a lame excuse.
Okay,
right?
that's a good point too.
Yeah, and I had to address that there were times that I had some, you know, Filipinos who's asking, you know, our fellow countrymen who's asking for advice. I had to ask them, like, what gave you that impression? Did he say because you're a Filipino, that's why he doesn't like you? Just give me the complete picture. And I had to tell that person, I'm sorry, but I think you're jumping into conclusion here, you know? So
let's just frame it. Let's frame it properly. What is the Roxie Negrillo formula for dealing with potentially racist sentiments? What's the formula there to make sure that we're also not making a fool of ourselves?
I think we have to take a step back and process it first. We don't need to be super impulsive and reacting at the same right there and then. You know, sometimes just kind of like give yourself like 5 minutes to process it. You know, take a step back, assess the complete picture. If it's really we feel it's very you know, discriminating, and then that's when we say it. But also do it the right way. I would always say that. So in that story that I told you, it was a professional meeting. If we're just, let's say in a restaurant, and he said that, I could have reacted differently, yeah, right? Yeah. But you know, we just need to be smarter in the way we react. I always say that 90% of what happens to us is based on impulse, right? So how we react to it is more important. And
I like the way that you've kept your composure there, and I think that's a good lesson for everybody, for any situation for that matter. You know, any kind of situation that is potentially inflammatory, we have to step back and really process and, you know, be calm about it. Being in the multinational world, Roxie, what are the things that a Filipino must do to succeed? Again, very broad,
right?
But if you can just give a few pointers. What are the things that a Filipino has to do to make sure that they climb up the ladder, especially in a multinational environment?
Don't get emotional. because this we are not in
And
the
we're very
Philippines.
emotional.
Exactly. So it's kind of like anti-culture,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we need to be more professional, more objective of the situation, and be more vocal, as you said. And also, what is working for me is I constantly upskilling myself. I see the trends, and I say that if I'm going to be in this same position for the next 3 years, I'm going to be obsolete, right? It's like I am blocking my own growth. So what is it that I can pick up as a skill so that I can invest in myself? The problem is going to parties, you don't invest in yourself.
Yeah.
These are all facade, right? So you have to be like, you have to have your own growth list, right? If you're going to have a growth mindset, you need to be intentional, right? What is it that you want to achieve personally at work? Give yourself a timeline, but don't be too hard on yourself, right? Just make sure it's actionable. And then if it doesn't work, pivot. I always say, especially in this current economic climate, we need to learn how to pivot. You know, we need to change and we need to adapt. And at the same time, I guess for me, my formula has always been, I've known my reputation is being fair but tough. I'm very tough at work. But I'm fair.
Tough is good, yeah.
But I'm fair. So at least, you know, I give my criticism, but it's always coming from a constructive approach. You know, I've never been in a situation that I've shorthanded someone. So being fair and tough, but at the same time, when it comes to your team, I always value compassionate leadership. You know, I'm a graduate of Ateneo Leadership and Social Entrepreneurship, and we've talked about servant leadership. It's being a leader is being of service to others. So I guess as I evolve into becoming a more senior leader, that is very helpful for me because that works on an emotional capital, right? There's self-control, there's self-actualization, mentoring. You know, because unfortunately not all boss has the capacity to mentor, and it's very sad. But I guess, you know, you just have to decide. If you want to mentor your team and you want to develop your team, you need to work harder.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned this because I think especially in a corporate setting, it's the soft skills or the soft things that we miss. Because people will always go for, you know, continued professional development and all that without really thinking of the emotional quotient, you know, the mentoring and the softer side of things. So it's very important that you mentioned that. What are the things that Filipinos should not do? What are the pet peeves? What are the things that, oh my goodness, you should not do this in a professional setting, especially in a multinational setting? What do you think are these things that we have to avoid?
I think one is, you know, as I said, being oversensitive. Yeah, that is being perceived as unprofessional. Being able to broad-minded. Yeah. Right, like contextualize the way you talk and always be prepared. The things that I guess that's not, you know, that we shouldn't do is being super. It's like we're giving preferences because you know, that's kind of embedded in our culture.
I know, yeah.
Right.
It's like the ate kuya mentality, right? Ate, can you please do this? And I mean, how do you react to something like that? It's not really a good thing, right? In the multinational setting.
I guess we need to understand where that person is coming from, right? Like in our company, even if we're all Filipinos, there's certain level of professionalism that if we're talking about work, I'm not talking about, I forgot to do it. Is it okay? You know, of course it's not okay, right? Yeah. So, but when it comes to work, we shouldn't be having that bias lens of because she's kabayan, I can be lazy. I don't need to have high quality. And I see that sometimes, you know, and it's frustrating to see it that because I'm kabayan, you don't treat me with respect. You don't give me high quality service. And that's unfair. Actually, even more because I'm a kabayan. You should actually be proud that I'm in your establishment or I'm eating in your restaurant, right? But sometimes it happens, you know, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think whining, we have a habit of just, you know, being in that mindset of we just complain and we get stuck up on that and we just give up and we just, you know, intoxicates other people's feelings. So we need to kind of, if we want to do that, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying is that don't make it public. Don't cry in public. Just go to your people who can understand you and who can help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes there's the drama that goes with it. I don't know. Maybe sometimes it has something to do with maturity. It has
And I
something
think it's
to do with
cultural
exposure.
also. A lot of Filipinos
Right.
love drama. I think it's embedded in a lot of us, I guess.
Yeah.
What about being friendly as a leader, Filipino or not Filipino? How friendly can you get? Because I think this is always, I guess, a challenge or a bone of contention in different offices. Should you be friendly? You talked about compassionate leadership,
Right.
but how personal should you be getting with your, with your team members?
I mean, I treat everybody equally in my team, and even the people that I service, for example. And my team is multicultural. I have Filipinos, I have Arabs, I have Europeans in the team. It's about it's not being intrusive. You can have an inclusive leadership is different from being intrusive or being controlling. Because sometimes you kind of like, if that person if there is something too personal, you have to respect that person's decision, not to tell you, because you're still, the supervisor. Some people would say, I need to know everything in your life, because I'm your boss and I need to know this.
That's very uncomfortable.
But that's very selfish. I find it very selfish
Yeah.
because you're looking at yourself and your reputation and not what that person is feeling. So I guess compassionate leadership is about being fair and being kind of like giving them flexibility, like if they're sick or if you think that they are overloaded, you can give them like, listen, you've worked, I've noticed that you've worked like until 10 p.m. every day. Why don't you pick one day and recover? And if they come to you
Just
with a problem,
being very empathic.
exactly. You're right. It's about having empathy. So that's I think is the practice of inclusive leadership, right?
Okay.
And some people kind of misinterpret that that as a boss I need to know everything happening in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
People
People are just people. Everybody's human, right?
Yeah, I always say to my team that, you don't need to be on your desk all the time. You can sit because we have a cafe downstairs, you can sit in the breakout rooms, but we are output oriented in our organization.
I love that. Yeah.
However, within working hours, please make yourself accessible. So if I call you, I would appreciate you answer or you return my call.
That's brilliant. That's
right?
brilliant.
So that's my premise in life. So, if someone has a very bad day, we all have good and bad days. If instead of coming to the office and crying or being, you want to work from home, you can work from home.
I love that. Yeah,
right?
I love
And
that.
our
That's
organization,
very progressive. Yeah.
exactly, it's one of the great places to work in the UAE, and I guess it has something to do with that. The
culture,
kind of
right?
management we have, it gives us flexibility because we are output oriented, and I guess that's the kind of the advantage of the industry that I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, no need to nitpick, but show the progress, right? Show your productivity. I wanted to talk to you about on a more personal level.
Yes.
So we know Roxie, the professional. We know about the great work that you're doing. Who is the Roxie that nobody knows?
That's a very good question.
Who's this girl? Who's this person who nobody knows?
Yeah.
Who are you in your private life?
Yeah, I'm actually a very, when it comes to friendship and opening up, I'm a very private person, so I really don't open up to a lot of people. But what people see is I'm a very loyal person, through and through, in all aspects of my life. So once I like you, I would always like you, and I would stand by you, in all aspects. So I guess that's why I preserve meaningful relationships with different kinds of people throughout my life. So that's the Roxie, one of my qualities that maybe some people don't know, and I look tough. And I look because of my work. It's part of my DNA.
It's
right?
Yeah,
But,
it's part of the deal, right? It's part of the package, I guess.
But I'm a very laid back person. When I'm at
What do you mean
home-
by laid back? Because I cannot
Yeah.
associate the term laid back with you. What's your
it's
idea of
more
laid
like,
back? Yeah.
I don't, let's say, go out and shop a lot or like kind of like be like delegating everybody, be on top of things all the time. That's very exhausting, right? So when I'm at home, you know, people in the house would see, and even my son would see that I'm just there. I'm in the kitchen cooking, or I'm just watching TV, or I'm just reading. You know, I don't talk a lot at home, right? Because in the office, I talk a lot.
You're talking every day, right?
So I don't have my phone at home.
Excellent.
Like it's in my bag or something, or I even sometimes misplace it.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm a very quiet person in reality.
What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. How do I say it? I guess, I mean, it's part of the job, right? We have to also. Actually, that's a very, I don't have a guilty pleasure.
Really? Come on.
But actually, when somebody asked me, when I was new in the company, we have this initiation that you have to introduce yourself. And you need to actually have an object that you like. And I was really like blank because I don't collect things. I don't get attached to objects. I'm like, what am I going to show? Like, I have nothing.
So what did you show then?
I showed my son's first painting that he painted, and it's a Vincent van Gogh, and he painted it when he was 3 years old. It's not even my object, right? But I treasure that. So what is my guilty pleasure? I guess I like pampering my friends. I go out with my friends, and you know, I kind of like take care of their needs, you know, or their wants. I'm a very generous person. Maybe it's not even guilty pleasure, but that's
very generous for a guilty pleasure, right?
Yeah. And then my son, like I would because he's growing like every 6 months, right? I make sure that he has everything he needs, and also the problem with myself, and I guess maybe it's not a problem, but maybe more of it's a complexity. I have a very complex character because I always find myself sacrificing myself's happiness for others, you know. And I hate, sometimes I dislike myself for doing that, but I always find myself trapped in that situation, right? So I tend to I have this, it's okay, I can manage myself, but I need to do this for others.
What's the one thing that somebody can do to you that will totally kill that friendship? What's the one thing?
Being judgmental about families, about children, you know. I'm a bit, how do you call it? It bothers me if someone is just making sideline comments all the time or being judgmental about, you know, people, because I believe that we are not defined by our past, we are not defined by our family, and we could always, you know, change it. So I find myself in situations where I had to speak up and I have to tell that person, you know, what gave you that impression? I believe, you know, it's not fair for you to, you know, see me that way or see other people that way. So that's way. And bad parenting.
Bad parenting.
That really like bothers me a lot.
I can imagine, you know?
That. So, and I have to restrain myself because it's none of my business. But the only thing I can do is, you know, if somebody asks me, I would. If somebody asks for my advice, I would give it. But it's just hard.
I think it's very sensitive for mothers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and another, I think, misconception about me is that because I've been, how do you call it, a straight A student when I was growing up, and I've always been an achiever, people think that I pass that on to my child. Of course, my son has his own set of skills and qualities. I mean, he's good academically, thank God, but I've never pressured him. You know,
it's not fair to
and
the
this
kid,
is a very
right?
different generation,
Definitely.
right? I don't, like if my son is reviewing in the school for 6 hours, I don't want him to sit on a chair and review again when he gets home. I want him to play basketball. I want him to go out.
Enjoy
we go
being
to the
a
zoo.
child, right?
Yeah, we go to the zoo and feed all the animals for 3 hours. That's our bonding, right? Rather than going to the mall and
that's
just,
true, yeah.
You know, so it's it's when people say that or say that, oh, you don't, I didn't know you can cook. I didn't know you can bake. And it's like because I'm a working mom, I feel like,
of course you can cook,
right? Like there's this box approach when it comes to working moms. Like, you know, you only think about your career and you don't know anything about home. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm domesticated and I'm also good at my work.
Well, good on you.
It is like I don't know. I just feel like there's this
Yeah.
stereotype
Well,
about
you can have
that,
it all. Seriously.
Right? Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. We're
at
in that
least a
generation.
measure of it. Final question to you, motto in life. I know it's corny, but what's the guiding light for you? What's the favorite motto there?
I guess never let anyone dull your sparkle. Right?
Superb.
You can. I mean, if people can always throw at you,
Yeah.
you know, just try to provoke you, but you know, you just don't let them. The moment you get affected, you lose, right? But of course, we're all humans. When you get affected, you don't show it. You know, you expose it to people that you trust, and you are psychologically safe, right? So, but it's very hard, and up until now, you know, there are certain ups and downs in life, but do not let anybody just ruin
I
your
love
belief
that.
system. Because if you ruin your belief system, it's gonna be a race at the bottom. You're gonna spiral down, and it's gonna be hard to get back again. So that's actually something that I really, really value, and it's very important to me. You know,
Do not let anybody dull your sparkle.
exactly.
And
Right.
with that, thank you so much. So
Thank
many
you.
things I learned from you today,
Right.
and it's good that you cooked. Never
Yes,
give that
I
up.
cook and I bake and
Never give that
other
up.
things. Yeah.
Let them think what they want to think. Be a professional mom.
Right. I
Every
mean,
day.
I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know myself.
Yeah.
And I have a good set of friends who know me. And that's enough. I think that's
Yeah.
enough, you know. So quality over quantity, as they say.
Definitely.
So-
Do you?
Exactly. And I am actually wanting to be more significant than being popular. I've never strived for popularity. It's more like by my own merit, people acknowledge me and value me. It's about that.
Super.
Yeah.
We hope to find more people like you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for lending
Thanks.
your words of wisdom today. Thank you, Roxie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yay.
Right.
Super.